Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Such a pleasure to be playing inside of this almost cryogenic chamber because outside it's so hot. It's almost 45 Celsius outside. So any kind of AC feels like 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 a cryogenic chamber right now. And it's so good to have my very good friend and your very good friend, Mr. Darek Oles, with us. Darek Oleszkiewicz. Am I pronouncing it right? That was
You got it. Perfect.
Oleszkiewicz. Darek Oles. And before anything, I think we haven't played for so long that I think we want to start just playing.
Yeah.
So this is it. and sweet. Short and sweet. This was just to warm up. That was Weaver of Dreams, and by the great Victor Young. And we wanted just to stay, like to play right away. And as we were preparing, the material to play a few minutes ago, Darek told me a little story about this. So I want to, first of all, welcome Darek. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Great to be here, Otmaro. Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure, man. It's like, it's a highlight in my career. Every time I get to play with you, it's a highlight.
Likewise.
I wish I could put an entry in my bio every time we play together.
Likewise, Otmaro.
Tell me about the story that you were telling me about this tune. It was a coincidence, by the way.
Victor Young actually grew up in my home country, Poland. He comes from Polish family, and all his musical education he received in Poland. So a lot of great standards come from Victor Young's composing. We including this one we just played, Weaver of Dreams. So it's a nice coincidence. He received all his education in Poland, then immigrated back to U.S. and had a great career in Hollywood, writing music for the movies and a lot of songs. Just great.
Beautiful.
Stella by Starlight,
exactly.
all those great.
Yeah. Actually, Stella was part of the actual soundtrack.
Yeah.
They extracted that from the soundtrack of The Uninvited, right?
Uninvited. Yeah, that's the movie.
I think I talk a little bit about that movie in one of the series that I made, but have you seen the movie?
I've seen it, yeah.
I didn't know. It's the first movie made in Hollywood, at least that I know, where the supernatural stuff is taken seriously, because up till that point it was all like humor, Abbott and Costello, and,
you're right.
but it's the first movie about paranormal things, from a serious, So, man, I usually, it's the first time, by the way, that we started this conversations by playing, and it feels great because at least some of the icicles are already melting from my hands. But I usually start with a question that I ask every guest, and the reason why I do it is because I feel we as artists sometimes need a little bit of validation in some of the feelings that we might have. And there's no right or wrong, and I think Katina has something to tell us. 1 second. Yes, Bebita?
Okay. It's hard to know when to interrupt. I'm so sorry. In general, it's very soft, so I have like the max in my headphones, and I believe people might have a hard time. So if you can pop it up a little bit without distortion.
All right, I'll try.
And the bass can be a tiny bit louder.
Okay.
Tiny bit.
Good. Last adjustments in the balance. In the balance of the instruments. Okay, let's see. That should be. Yes, I was saying it's important that we sometimes we feel a little bit. Like we are going through stuff alone in our own feelings, and it's good to have validation from other people that might be going through the same, or feel, get some words of encouragement or whatever. Like when this whole pandemic hit us, it hit everybody by the same. The big ones, the little ones, the super established ones, the not so established. Everybody kind of like back to zero, right? All of a sudden we found we are here at home. And then some people have found ways of coping with that, you know, either, but in different ways, you know. So like I, like, you know, for instance, I started immediately. I thought like, oh man, this is the perfect opportunity to start doing this and to practice and to write music. Some other people went into finding some other kind of activities to keep their mind occupied. Some other went into a more like depressive, maybe. Not well, depression is a hard word, but into this kind of like dark mode, you know. So, how have you been? What was your reaction with this, with regarding like losing focus, purpose, or on the other hand, maybe seizing new opportunities? Or,
you know, it was kind of both positive and negative. Negative because all the gigs got canceled. I had amazing itinerary for this year. I lost a lot of amazing touring opportunities with Pat Metheny, with a trio with Peter Erskine and Alan Pasqua. We were supposed to go to Europe, so it was going to be a really exciting year, and a lot of also great local concerts here with different beautiful musicians. So yeah, that was shocking. But then I kept teaching for the rest of the semester. I had quite a few students, and I was teaching online, and I focused on the music of John Coltrane. You know, I started listening to some recordings that I haven't heard before. There were some tapes that resurfaced in the last couple of years, and we started listening profoundly to that music and analyzing and practicing and transcribing. And to me, John Coltrane's music was always really therapeutic in a way. In hard times, I pull out John Coltrane's record, like A Love Supreme or one of those. And it really helps me to find a balance and peace. That music, John Coltrane's, to me, that has that effect on me, always had. So I started playing more of the Coltrane tunes and sent some like recordings to my students. And soon realized like, wow, this could be a good opportunity to, since I have all the time at home and I have a recording setup at my home studio, so I decided to record enough music for the album release, solo bass, which I think nobody has done before. No bass player has attempted to play John Coltrane's music and solo bass. And so that kept me really busy and inspired for a couple of months at least. You know, we released that album and shared with my students, with my musicians friends, you know, and it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot musically and technology wise. I got my chops together, at Logic, I use Logic.
You see.
And it came out really good. I'm proud of it. So that was a very positive outcome of my first, let's say, month or two of isolation, and I kept in touch with a lot of people online, with my students and all other friends and family. So I have to say, I haven't gotten this much time to practice again my favorite bass every day, play and listen and actually get some rest and sleep and go on long walks around the neighborhood, exercise. So I can't really complain too much. I've been busy doing my thing. After I finished this project, I started recording a lot of more music for my students, kind of like educational sort of bass etudes on a lot of, I have like 8 or 10 chapters that I record my bass, and I will use that material with my bass students in upcoming semester or 2 or even longer. It's kind of a huge project. I'm just completing it now. So every day I had something to do, and I never had one dull moment, like one day that I was kind of not knowing what to do or being depressed or bored. Never that.
That's great.
So I can't complain. It's been, I look forward to get back to normality and play for people, in front of people, and with people in the same room.
What you mentioned also, because although we're not playing with people, you are keeping there's a purpose for your practicing. There's a purpose for that, because you're recording, and it's good that you mentioned also that you are seizing the moment also to learn this new ability, these new skills.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, another thing that I've heard from other musicians is like they went into this like, okay, I'm just gonna wait this out and just practice, but just wait this out until this open, and when this opens, I'm gonna be in top shape. But if it's very easy to at some point get discouraged because you don't have the certainty of a date. Okay, it's gonna open in November, it's gonna open in October or December. If you don't have the certainty of a date, then your mind starts sabotaging yourself, and you say, why am I practicing this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But also you're learning logic. That's new skills. That's, you know, wonderful, getting your audio chops. It's only going to make you a better package, you know, even better than what you already are, you know. That's amazing.
That's why I tell my students also, they have to learn Logic, Pro Tools, all the technology, and this will actually be the way to go. You know, you have to be able to do that at your trucks at home, you know, your music, and send it to friends, even in normal times, and where we actually are able to do everything in person. But there's a lot, and I'm sure you do a lot of that too at home.
Well,
I've projects every day here.
I've had to. I have to. I mean, I used to have you know, our friends that come and operate my studio, and then I had to learn to do it myself now, and also learn the camera thing and the editing and the as you said, it's
a beautiful studio here.
Yeah, and well, thank you. And you like cooking?
I do some cooking, but
so it's a perfect opportunity to
cooking wise, I got a little lazy.
You got lazy, come on, man.
And a little spoiled because my daughter cooks for me, my
okay,
son-in-law,
all right.
Or I go out. You know, I haven't been doing all that. I do breakfast and coffee, that's for sure.
Because I remember that you were talking about this Polish place, but it's way too far from here. So I thought,
there's actually a new Polish place here in Canyon Country.
In Canyon Country, you see,
it's called Pierogi Spot, and it's excellent.
Okay, there you go. They got the free plug now.
Yeah, free plug, man. I recommend it. I go there sometime. It's great.
Okay, you see, we had to have this interview for me to find out.
They opened about a year ago, so it's fairly new. Yeah. Oh, nice people too. Really
great,
nice
man. Okay, I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah.
Well, man, this is, I think, is very pertinent because, you know, as I said, I have friends that have gone through the whole range of emotions, and I have friends that have been like really sad and dark about this whole thing, and they're totally paralyzed, basically, you know. And other people just jump into it and started doing stuff. And other people started learning other stuff, not necessarily music related. I mean, why? You know, why it has to be music related? So it's wonderful that people are decided to, okay, we travel every year. We used to travel, right? So why not learning a language? You know, why not try to pick up a language? I was doing perfecting my Portuguese too, but I think Katina and me, we want to start taking some French online, or, you know. So it's great. Well, I would love to start the actual program with playing one of your songs, one of your own compositions. And I would like to say, I mean, I'm leaving that title on the screen right now because usually it takes a little while for people to get their sound adjusted, and I cannot hear. Well, first of all, if you try to hear from a phone, you are defeating everything that I'm trying to do here, because I think we have a very good sound going right now, but you have to enjoy it with headphones, all right? So welcome everybody, get your headphones. Bem-vindos todos aos nossos amigos no Brasil. Use your headphones. Use su headphones, I don't know how to say. Como você fala headphone in Portuguese? And our friends in Japan, this is the perfect time, like right after breakfast, you can enjoy this. And I'm going to leave the title there. But one of my most favorite tunes written by you, Darek, and this I learned from our common friend Aaron Serfati. He's the one that told me about this song, and after we played it the first time, I was like in love. And after we played, I'm gonna comment my humble opinion about this whole thing, okay? And then
Sure.
hopefully we'll okay. This is entitled Snow Globe.
Yeah, Otmaro.
Wow. Well, I am the luckiest guy. The luckiest guy. Because, you know, the last, I mean, since I started doing this, you know, I had Bob and I had Larry and and now I have you. And, you know, when you have people that are not only amazing musicians, amazing teachers, masters, you know, they articulate persons, but also wonderful composers. I can tell you, very rarely. I mean, and you know, we play with a lot of people, but very rarely I actually think, I wish I would have composed that. And you know, when I play with you, I mean, Larry has some wonderful compositions and Bob, but you know, this tune, especially this tune, I wanted to open with this tune.
Thank you.
Because when Aaron told me about this, it's like, have you played that little joropo, that Darek composed? I say, what? It's like, and yeah, it's like, you know, every time I play this song, I get sent like in some kind of like a wormhole back to Venezuela. It's such a wonderful sound, wonderful vibe, and it channels so much elegance, but so much intrinsic beauty, you know. And
thank you.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I guess at one point we asked you this. You know, it's like, were you inspired in some South American, you know, music or whatever? But it sounds so much like, you know, like those wonderful waltzes, you know, from the, you know, the elegant, popular waltzes that we had, you know, and but you know, there's so many things that I could ask you about, you know, and we would need like 10 programs for that, you know that, you know. But the one thing that I am always in awe every time I play with you is your ability. That's another reason why we started with standard and now we went into this. You have this ability to understand that one menu of slangs, if we refer to styles as slangs and idioms, doesn't necessarily apply to everything. And then when you have a song composed like this with such a logical yet simply but deceiving harmonic movement, you choose to go for an approach in your delivery that's so much more universal. It's not like, oh, he's not playing bebop. No, he's playing music, and the music that you're doing is such a wonderful narrative that you achieve. And of course, I mean, you are way past the emulation period where you learn things by heart, and you know you are in that space in your life as an artist in which you're just channeling all this, the right thing. So I want you to talk about this, about your sense of flow when you are improvising, and as we usually do, I try to explain it in two different levels. You know, a level for the non-musicians that might be listening to right now, and then maybe the same thing, maybe you can explain it in other terms a little bit more advanced for the musicians that be connected right now.
Well, thank you, Otmaro. That's a great compliment hearing it from you. That's huge. Thank you so much. You know, music that I write and play obviously has a connection from where I come from Poland. And there's a really rich tradition of music, classical music, but also there's been a lot of great music, great songs written, and a lot of great jazz playing, great composers, great improvisers there. So I come from a very talented country, you know, and it seems like all the Polish musicians and composers have a great talent for the melody. You know, the melody, it's very, let's say, rich and very prominent in Polish music. So I think I inherited some of that just by growing up in Poland, listening to Chopin, listen to amazing songwriters in 1960s and 70s wrote a lot of popular songs. The melodies were unbelievable. So somehow naturally I developed good instinct for melody. So when I write a song or write a tune, I hear melody kind of first with harmony, but it has to be there, you know, the initial idea that I try to develop, and you know, and that's kind of the way, you know, it goes, just without agenda, but with kind of inspiration and a moment. Very similarly, I improvise. I kind of compose in the moment when I play a bass solo. And I know there's all those styles and there's bebop and there's vocabulary, but you know, I try to just play my song. You know, I just continue playing the melody in the song that it's somewhere in me. That's probably the simplest way to describe it. I would say I try to be like a singer on an instrument, you know, like playing, singing through my bass. Also, I try not to remember all my licks, you know, like kind of memorize and then insert them at appropriate times. That never felt good.
It always sounds, sounds like an insert, as you said. It always sounds like, you know, because
that never worked for me. And I know some people do it, but you know, the great musicians, improvisers that I listen to, Miles Davis, Keith Jarrett, one of my favorite, seem like they always have abundance of ideas and not many like licks that they would repeat from time to time. And in fact, one time I read an interview with Keith Jarrett, this is years ago, and he kind of confirmed what I already knew and felt. He said that improvisation is an art of forgetting. When I read that, it's like, yeah, right on.
Yeah,
that's what I kind of instinctively knew. I want to improvise as well as I can and compose something in a moment, but then I want to forget it. I don't want to keep repeating it. So that could be kind of a simple way of explaining my philosophy of improvising and composing. So
that's wonderful.
And the roots of it, you know, where I come from.
How about now for a more like a specialized public? How do you go about finding that sense of connection, of how to be? I use the word consequence. You know, because in music, when you are in the moment, when you are really trying to, as you said, even if you have the perfect lick, if you keep waiting for that special place, it always sounds horrible. It always sounds like it doesn't really belong. And plus, prior to that moment, you're always eager to. You're kind of like counting that it's not right.
Yeah.
So there's I've tried through the years to apply consequence. Whatever I play, it has to be a consequence of what I played before. But how do you achieve in your phrasing that sense of flow, of really forcing yourself in finding a narrative?
Well, we're having a conversation, you know. You say something, I respond to it. It's a very similar way when I play bass, when I hear you playing something beautiful, I try to follow that. And when it's my time to solo, I also listen to what you play, beautiful chords. And I create sentences on the instrument. And how do I get the flow? You know, I have a bass that I really love, like the really good sounding instrument. And I've played this bass for 31 years, the same instrument. It's my main favorite one. And it seems pretty easy actually to get the flow on it. It's like I don't have that feeling like something is stopping me. You know, like there's some
sings.
obstacle
Yeah,
there.
it sings very beautiful.
If I just get enough practicing, let's say every day, and if I'm focused enough, then I'm kind of okay. You know, I can play any kind of music. I can play any tempo and improvise freely, and I'm able to, let's say, tell the story as if I would. If you ask me to tell the story about, some event that occurs, and I'm expressing myself in English, even though my first language is Polish, my second language is Spanish. So it's kind of part of that process. Improvisation, jazz improvisation, musical improvisation. It's learning the language and then just using what you know in order to express yourself, tell the story. So that's how I can explain right now. I don't have a better theoretical explanation for this. It's being in the moment and just kind of hoping for the best. And sometimes it's not happening. My playing sometimes is really not where I want it to be. It doesn't feel right. Sometimes I'm making a lot of mistakes. You've heard him play a lot of mistakes. Almost every time we play together, I'm like all over. Yeah. So it's not perfect, but I try to be spontaneous and just be in the moment and be honest.
One second. Yeah, Bebita?
Yes, I have 2 questions.
Can we leave them for the end, please?
Yes. So
Because-
let me know when.
Yeah, because I have a whole questionnaire of things that
Okay.
So
I'll pass the question.
So yeah.
Okay, because I have such a long delay, so if you call me, it's gonna take like 30 seconds for me to answer.
There's a delay, so sometimes it's hard for Katina to follow what we're saying. But all of you who are watching right now, if you have any questions, like unfortunately we cannot answer all the questions because of the time, but Katina is very good at filtering the very good ones, and she usually makes sure that we get those questions here, and we leave them for the end. Okay. So one thing that you mentioned, and I think it's wonderful because I cannot stress it enough, especially among my students that come from a different musical culture or a different geographical area, especially, of course, is the fact that you embrace, as you said, your heritage, your musical heritage, your cultural heritage, and that's something that comes in your music so strongly, and that's what makes you so unique. And I always tell them, it's like the world, this immense amount of kids that want to sound like the usual suspects that we all know. They all want to sound like this, they all want to sound like, and they forget that they come from places that are so uniquely musical, and they just forget all this. And I tell them, use it, that's who you are, that's part of who you are, use it wisely, and that nobody needs another Art Tatum. Nobody needs another Oscar Peterson. People need the new you. You know what you can bring to the equation.
Totally.
So that's wonderful. And let's play another tune of yours. This was a new one for me. We went through this in our last gig together. That was back in I think in late February or something like that, right?
Middle of March, right before the lockdown.
Yeah. So we played this wonderful song called Embarcadero. right. Beautiful.
Thank you, Otmaro.
Beautiful, beautiful.
All we were talking about before also, I learned from Charlie Hayden. You know, he would encourage us to explore our own voice, you know, and develop something unique. So Charlie was my teacher at Cal Arts and Youth. We were there together at the time, and you know, some of the composing part and improvising, I take from Charlie. You know, that's also huge influence in my life. You know, learning how to improvise and compose.
Well, I'm glad you are saying this, because one of the things that there's this questionnaire of things that we took, you know, this list of questions that we randomly take. But one of the questions that that I usually include in the list is sometimes musicians take a golden nugget from someone, you know, and it's good to acknowledge that I mean where we get our things from, because at the end of the day, I mean, the music belongs to everyone, but basically the only thing that we really have is the credit for what we do, the proof of having done it. I mean, money comes and goes, and recognition, whatever, might or might not come, but knowing that there's someone that acknowledges that and says, listen, I got this from this guy, you know, that's wonderful. And I think it's important in our music community to do this. One of the things that, for instance, that I was totally in shock when I met you, and when I met also Charlie, and I don't want to in any way say that you got it from Charlie, because obviously you have a very strong classical tradition and upbringing in your instrument. You know, it's obvious, but it's something that I was not used to when I was in Venezuela. Is the sense of knowing acoustically where your instrument fits, and how to, I mean, first of all, your natural sound in the instrument is wonderful, and it's a sound that comes from your connection with the instrument physically and emotionally. A lot of cats, you know, nowadays they depend too much on the amplifier and the electronics. Unfortunately, of course, we have to run it through electronics so people can hear it. But if you could be here in the studio, we're playing with no amplification, right? And that was one of Darek's first comments. Like, oh, let's go. I don't need the headphones. I want to go, you know, acoustically. And the reason why I have the headphones is because I need to make sure that the sound is going and there's no distortion and all this. So, but I totally agree with that. I mean, certain situations call for that proximity to the actual sound, to the what makes the instruments resonate. And you know, you play an instrument that could be viewed as a very weak instrument in terms of volume, especially for today's standards, where we play with loud drummers or like, you know. So obviously we have to amplify it sometimes. Same with the piano. I mean, the piano is not a very loud instrument, and I hate when I mean, if I have like let's say like a $1 million piano, whatever, at the very moment they put a microphone on it, it doesn't sound like $1 million piano anymore.
True.
It sounds like an electric piano.
Yeah, very true.
It doesn't matter what microphone it is. It's an electric piano. So for the most part, I try to enjoy that experience too. It's like just open the lid and try to get as much from the instrument as possible. And Charlie had that.
Oh.
Charlie had that. Actually the first time that I walked into the room and I saw Charlie Hayden play, I thought he was going through an amplifier, and he was this
Yeah.
huge sound naturally, you know.
He had the best sound, the best bass sound ever. He's got an amazing instrument and also the concept of producing the sound, articulation, and dynamics. All came together magically. And Charlie used the same instrument for good 40, 50 years, since 1960s. And that's the best. There was a French instrument, Viam was the famous luthier that made it almost 200 years ago now. Amazing. So yeah, that sound, when I heard it there at CalArts, Otmaro, when I first starting, when he was bringing that bass to the lessons and ensemble class, and he would play in front of me without any amplification, that was life-changing experience with Otmaro. That was life-changing. And then also what he talked about, what is important in music, what is not important, about life, about spiritual aspect of that too. That shaped me. I already knew how to play bass. I was actually pretty good bass player already when I came to CalArts. I performed and recorded and toured in Poland and Europe with great people. But Charlie added something to my, let's say, the shape of me as a musician that really,
Yeah. Plus,
kind of blossomed.
He was always very encouraging too,
Yeah.
He was, I kept telling him, my friends, it's like Charlie was to me like the king of cool. He was cool.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I couldn't get to take any of his actual classes. I would actually sit in, because I wanted to be part of it, but I couldn't take any of his classes. And I was, I guess you were also part of the Liberation Music Orchestra when he put it together, and he gave me the opportunity to play that repertoire. That's when my relationship with him really became a little closer. And what a wonderful cat, always encouraging, and yeah. So I heard that in Poland there's this amazing way of manipulating playing cards. I think that the most notorious cheaters in poker come from Poland.
Okay.
And there's a deck of cards next to you.
I see it. Yeah, I was wondering what are these.
I want
you play cards.
I want you to give me that Krakow
okay.
shuffle. You are so famous
Krakow
for
shuffle.
the Krakow shuffle.
What do I do?
Yeah, just make sure to shuffle them.
Pick up cards.
No, actually, shuffle them or mix them in.
Shuffle,
Yeah. See, that's the Krakow shuffle. There you go. That's.
I didn't practice. I used to do it on a table much better than I do now.
I knew. You're a dangerous cat.
I've done some of that. Krakow shuffle. It's hard to pronounce. Krakow shuffle. Okay.
That's okay. Just pick three.
Pick a card.
Pick three.
Three.
So we can go.
I promise I'm not going to cheat.
Yeah.
If you can believe that.
Okay, we're going to have a questionnaire of 52 very impertinent questions. Some are impertinent, some are a little more deeper, profound, but hey. And each card has a question. So give me the first card.
Okay, the first card I see is this.
3 of clubs. Three of clubs. Oh man,
What is it?
this is one of those questions that if someone asked, I'm glad I'm the host, so I don't have to answer it. But if someone asked me this question, I would have a lot of explaining to do.
Okay.
Okay, have you ever made a silly excuse to get out of a tight musical situation? Sometimes some players blame it on my lips are tired, or the instrument malfunction, or there's a valve, whatever, or I left my glasses, my reading glasses somewhere. Have you ever made a silly excuse on a bandstand?
I don't think I have, but having said so, I actually did not take a gig or quit in the middle of the gig, actually, and walked off.
Or
There's only maybe a couple of occasions that I can recall. And they were not silly excuses, I just didn't like the music. And the leader of that one project that he wanted me to drive up to Oakland, California, play one concert, and drive back. He actually sent me the music, and I really didn't like the music. And he had some great people playing on a record. There was like a double CD tribute to this famous rock band that I'm not a fan of, but he's a great saxophonist, I really, like his playing. But the project that he put together, I was like, after I heard it, I was like, I don't hear myself doing this. I don't like the original versions. I don't like the arrangements. I don't like this. Why am I going to go to Northern California for one concert and drive back? That really doesn't, the music doesn't resonate. So, and I wrote him an email, and he was actually not liking my email. He got kind of upset with me, and I said, who are you? I have so and so playing bass on this album. Like, I totally understand, but I feel like I'm a free guy, free man in America. I'm always for freedom. I come from Poland. I value freedom, man. And in fact, I still think that right now in Poland, people have more freedom than people have in America. There's a little different balance of these things. But I see, we're all free. We don't have to do things that we don't have to do, especially in art and music that we love.
Yeah.
So you sure get somebody else that will do a great job and enjoy it, because I don't think I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to offend anybody, but it was rough, man. It was rough.
So you did the contrary to the question. You actually no excuse. You went like, bam. No. That's good.
I probably see, in a retrospect, I should probably come up with some silly excuse.
No, I mean, because
I want to be honest. He's like, man, I'm not feeling this. And it was only a couple of times in my life that it happened, Another time was I played a gig, like an informal gig, and one of our former students, a couple of our former students, and a student's dad played drums, not very good. And the whole thing was so silly. It was just not making any sense,
Wow.
And there was a lot of people in the club. It was very noisy, and we played stanzas, but it didn't have integrity, it didn't have a vibe, it didn't have any chemistry. I felt like we were doing a terrible thing. And I saw one of my present of former students in the audience, a really good bass player that plays with that one student that I play with. And I said, man, you got it. The second said, you play. I'm not playing anymore. I packed up and left.
This whole thing about silly excuses. I mean,
yeah, I should probably come up with some.
I've got myself out of a situation. I told them the most outrageous excuse. It's only one or two times in my life, but like for instance, there was a time. Apparently, you don't have that problem because you don't wear glasses.
I do.
Okay.
Right now, I'm trying not to.
Okay.
But yeah.
For the longest time, since I was 25, I was playing in clubs with very dark lighting, and my eyes went off, but I refused to wear glasses. And back then, at 25, I was told you have to wear glasses to read. And I refused until my mid-40s. By the time I was 45, I couldn't read anything. Mm-hmm. But I didn't want to use glasses. Mm-hmm. And but I sucked in a lot of gigs because I couldn't read. I only saw like a blur. So I was always approximating, right? And then one time, my first pair of glasses that I had done were bifocals, because I realized I need to watch the music, but I need to also be able to see the conductor.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's wonderful. But I didn't really realize that there's a process that you have to adjust to these glasses. Mm. And I just went to the gig with my brand new glasses, and then we started 1, 2, 3. When I went to, first of all, when I look at the piano, it looks so big. It looked so big. The keys looked like they were gonna hit him on the face. and then when I looked up, the guy was like right here. The conductor's like, oh my god! And I totally suck on that gig, So this kind of things happen to us all the time, and it's hard to. There was no excuse. It's like, listen, that's what it is, But there was a famous guy in Venezuela, sound engineer. His name was Michel Gasset, and he was doing this project with some rock and roll, like young guys, and he was already tormented with these people. These kids had no business recording, and this guy was very grumpy. And at one point, he turned everything off in the studio, and he says, "The tank of the reverb is empty, so we have to wait until the truck comes tomorrow to refill it."
Wow, that's great. Wow.
And they bought it. They said, okay, we'll come back tomorrow.
Wow. That's so funny. Wow, that's great.
One of the greatest.
Tank of reverb.
So let's see the next question. Let's move along.
Okay. The next card is this. King of Hearts.
King of Hearts. King of Hearts. Wow, this is a existential question. How would you like to be remembered?
Oh. Well, I hope people will remember me as a bass player that would bring good music to the table every time. I hope. Somebody that would make them sound and feel better. I hope that my students will remember me as a teacher that really tried to give as much as he could to them. And I hope that people will still actually remember me and some of my music after I'm dead, and I hope it's gonna be all positive and it will still, bring some emotions and peace and joy, in their life. Some of my music, I hope so. But
I'm sure it will.
I hope they will not remember me about some bad guy that did something wrong.
That saxophone player might remember you with it.
That one guy, yeah, or two. I don't know. I mean, I hope it's gonna be all positive. I don't have anything like specific, to think about in that region,
Okay, that's great. Let's read the
One
last
more?
question. One more.
This.
That's the Jack of Spades.
It's
What is the very first of so many that I know you have? One of the very first highlights of your career that come to mind?
my first professional gigs in Poland. Yeah, I play with some great musicians, and they're really kind to me. Great saxophonist Jan Ptaszyn-Wróblewski, great saxophonist, composer, and arranger. Man, he could write for orchestras and big bands, gorgeous, and play great. So he kind of put me on a map. He kind of discovered me on one of the festivals that had a little competition for young musicians. I would win some awards, and he would actually took his time. He took me under his wing and offered me some really great opportunities to play and record. Jan Ptaszyn-Wróblewski, I think that was my first great professional experience, my first highlight. There was a bunch after that too, but I think the first I can think of was Jan. He's still with us. He's in his 80s and 84, 85 now, in Poland. You know.
Wonderful.
Great guy. He had a radio show also that he would present a lot of amazing recordings. He was so incredible. He's still incredibly knowledgeable about all the records and great people that made music, you know, You know, from the beginning of jazz history until now, he's an incredibly versatile guy.
Wonderful.
So I respect him very much, and I learn a lot from him.
Well, and I'm sure that a lot of people in Poland, if I ask them this question, they're going to list you as one of the first highlights. Because I have to say this, I went, right before this whole thing hit us, I went to, oh man, I'm going to butcher this name, Vijigot, what's that? The place where I met your friend that sent the letter to you, Vijigoch.
Oh, in Bydgoszcz.
Bydgoszcz.
Yeah, that's it. That's the name of the town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got there, and they were actually presenting this orchestral, like a orchestral jazz band hybrid, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And they were doing arrangements of wonderful music, film music by a prominent Polish composer. I forgot the name also. But everybody that knew that we were friends, immediately they like flooded me with all. It's like, oh man, you know Darek, oh my God, Darek. So it's like, you know, it's like I kind of was expecting they were gonna have like a statue of Darek Oles like in the middle of the atrium of the theater.
Not so much, but
yeah, wonderful.
Great musicians. They're great people in my home country.
Yes,
a lot of incredibly talented people.
Yeah,
and there's young generations also, Otmaro, that it's really great. A lot of great talented people.
Well, I believe I think there's no question in the fact that this is a subject for a whole different discussion about education and about music education and what really, you know, the big difference between these two countries. But the tradition, the music tradition that you get in the schools probably, and the structure, sense of technique, sense of you know, history, and then it's only that's like, you know, after that, once you start mixing and blending with all this jazz language, it can only get better, you know. So that's my appreciation of what goes on there. Well, we're gonna play one more tune of yours now, and this is also a wonderful song, but it is one of those. When I hear it the first time, I was like, "What a wonderful song!" And it gives you the impression that it's much simpler than it really is, and that's one of the elements that I like also in composers, where when simplicity actually have that hidden complexity, you know, that little thing that makes it so special. And this tune is has that element, and I'm gonna keep practicing it, and I'm gonna even try to play it in the accordion. You know, my new instrument.
That'd be great. Yeah.
This is entitled Inspiration, and then after this song, we're gonna try to take some questions from the audience. So I know Katina already has some questions ready, and then after this song, we'll address some of the questions. All right? This is Inspiration.
Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3.
Wow. This is another one.
Bravo, Otmaro.
Just,
You got
oh
it.
man, come on. I owe you, I owe you a few ones.
Oh, no,
But this is another one that I wish I would have written that. I wanted to be the one that introduced this tune to the world. What a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful composition.
You know, one of my favorite jazz composers, Kenny Wheeler, great trumpet player,
Yeah.
he wrote a lot of amazing tunes, as you know. And one time in an interview, somebody asked him, Mr. Wheeler, how do you find those great ideas? You know, you put together just perfect, beautiful compositions. Everybody wishes that they wrote it, right? But he honestly replied, he said, you know, I feel like I find those ideas right before somebody else's find them. You know, so it's like anything is available, all those ingredients, melody, harmony, and rhythm are there, you know, for anybody to find and use and put together. Kenny was the first that found those ideas and put it together. It's beautiful. So, I mean, you know, you hear the simple melody, there's really, anybody can write the melody, you know. Everybody knows the chords, you know. So it's just, I was lucky, I was inspired in a moment and found my way through it and found some ideas there, you know. But it's yours. You got it, Otmaro. You totally got it.
But again, we could go for hours. We could go for hours doing this. But like, for instance, one of the things that killed me from this tune and from also Snow Globe, the other tune that we played. One of the things that killed me is your use, or like your modulations using the diminished structures that come straight from the classical language, but it's so clever and so clean, and
Thank you.
and still, when you're improvising over that, everything yields so naturally.
I feel a real rusty on this. Some of those tunes I haven't played a real long time. I focus on other things, and now all of a sudden, oh, that tune again. Okay, let's see how it goes. Not quite on it, but I owe you a few for sure.
Well,
What you got,
my
Katina?
lovely Katina is
Yeah.
Here.
wearing her design mask, because we are here, guys. We are observing.
Complying.
We are complying.
I got one
with
in
the
my pocket
mask,
right
yeah. And I wouldn't do it any other way. And at the moment, we are, of course, we have a quiet separation here, but we have questions from the audience, right?
Yes. Não esqueça de colocar o botãozinho de doação.
Yes.
Okay. We have a lot of people from Chile, Argentina, Brazil, Venezuela. A lot of people. So if you can say a hi.
Okay.
Oi.
Muchas gracias por ver nuestro streaming de hoy. Me están diciendo que hay gente de Chile, de Argentina, de Brasil, de Venezuela. Y bueno, estoy completamente agradecido, muy honrado de que estén acá con nosotros. Espero que de verdad estas conversaciones sean, les den ideas o les den material para pensar y para desarrollar en su propio lenguaje musical. También bueno, Darek, podríamos haber hecho esto en español.
Sí,
right?
claro que sí, podemos hablar español. Me gusta mucho el español, sí. Y me da mucho gusto que ustedes están escuchando allá en Argentina,
Sí.
Venezuela, sí.
Sí, porque cuando yo llegué when I got to Cal Arts, I mean, they told me about this amazing bass player from Poland, and he's kicking everybody's ass with the instrument. And then, you know, he starts talking Spanish, speaking Spanish. And we're like, oh, okay, great. But I mean, it's no secret that people, especially, you know, in European countries, they have all this. This is called culture, by the way. So people actually speak many languages, so that's great. So what do we have, Benita?
We have lots of beautiful comments, everybody loving it, first of all. So a question from Brazil, from Paulo César Negrão and Anthony, to Darek. What piece of advice would you give to a young, soon-to-be professional bass player? That's one question for Darek. And then Mitch Long. By the way, Ben Shepard said that you can cook very well Polish food. Yeah.
Good.
Wait for us.
Good.
So Mitch Long also said if you guys can send any message regarding sound quality.
Sound quality.
Yes, if you could send any sound quality message away.
Sound quality, as in what? I don't understand.
Yeah, I was a little also, but
About
I
the way-
imagine it like a more concept, I would say.
Yeah. Okay.
I can answer.
Okay, great.
And the last question, if we have time, it was just a comment from Stefan Toder, talking about if you guys would agree. We talked about this before. So if playing music, would be like being in a conversation that you have to listen carefully before, and then it's like a question and answer basically. So if you guys could also develop this.
I can take that
about
one. I can take that one too. Because I just had that conversation with a friend of mine.
Okay.
How about I start with
sure.
the first two?
Sure.
I think the sound, it's extremely important. The quality of the sound that you produce of your instrument. If you find your instrument that you love, and when you're sure that this is where you can make a lot of music on, this piano that sounds so great. This instrument that I was lucky to find 31 years ago, it was a big step in my development in my career, because I found an instrument that I was instinctively looking for, and almost by accident I found it, and it did really help me develop my style, my voice, and my skills, of course. And when you have an instrument that you really like playing on, there's a lot of good things that will follow, in your development. But the sound, the first thing is the sound. So the quality of the sound, it matters tremendously. The quality of the sound of your instrument.
It could inspire you to do things that you don't usually
exactly
take in other instruments.
And you can, on this bass, for example, I understood, wow, I don't even have to play all that much on it. I can play fewer notes, and it sounds good.
I was going to say exactly that. There's some pianos. Sometimes when we're on tour, they want to show me this, piano manufacturers. They take me to a factory, this and that, the Steinway or whatever.
Yeah.
And they always invariably they lead you to the most expensive piano, and they want you to play it. And they always, I play just a few chords and let them resonate,
Yes.
And which is totally counterintuitive to, some other people would go but it's when you have a great instrument, that's how it sings, with less notes, and you realize,
totally.
it's conducive to all these other aspects. And conversely, some instruments make you play more, unnecessarily more, because they are dull, and you want to be eventful, overcompensate, right?
Yeah, totally. I totally agree.
Yeah. How about for our friends in Brazil?
General advice would be, I'm not sure who I'm talking to, but how old are you and what's your level of skills and development is right now. But in general, you have to have your own environment of few friends to play with, and be totally crazy about this music and really follow your heart. And you have to listen together, you have to rehearse a lot together. You have to have good teachers, that will guide you through it, So my advice is to really follow your heart and be crazy about the music. If you really want to succeed in a career of musician, you have to be completely obsessed, completely dedicated to it. And if you're a bass player, if you know how to play bass, and if your time is good, if your sound is good, if you bring to the table good vibes and you have enough skills, you'll be playing a lot of gigs.
Yeah, there's, good bass players, really good bass players, always have work. Yeah. Always. That is, demographically speaking, that is one of the ultimate truths. Much more than piano players, much more than guitar players. A good bass player will always have work.
So just keep doing your thing, and
And if I may add, discipline, because it's not only people say, "Oh, follow your heart." Yeah, that's great. You have to love the music, but there's an element that you cannot bypass, which is hard work. I mean, you need to work hard in getting your skills, your intonation, your accuracy. All that is part of, because that's what. I mean, you could have the most amazing ideas, and if you don't enunciate them, if you don't the pronunciation of your words is not clear, nobody will understand. So that's another aspect to the playing of an instrument. So
I practice every day, still.
Yeah, I try to. But I mean, now there's Netflix, so that's something we have to fight against. Netflix is in the way. So regarding the conversation, let me say something, and I would like to take the lead on this, and I would like to see your take on this, because there's a whole idea about music being a universal language that I don't necessarily. I mean, a language is much more than what people really think it is. A language is codes of understanding emotionally, and it's codes of understanding a clear message. So it wasn't until I got some training when I was in CalArts studying ethnomusicology with Nick England. I don't know if you remember Nick.
Yes.
I took 2 semesters taking ethnomusicology, especially in Asian cultures, and I mean the codes, even in countries like China and the United States, the musical codes of emotional and musical psychology are totally different. So you could believe that you're having a conversation, and maybe you are not. Maybe a Chinese musician, if he's only trained in his music, he's gonna be meaning something different. So that's where the theory about the universal language kind of like crumbles a little bit. For it to be actual language, both have to agree on the codes. Jazz. Let's talk jazz. Let's talk rock. Let's talk this. Specific. Now, another misconception that I think exists in jazz is the fact that the conversational aspect. When someone is, I mean, very few bands actually can achieve that, in which the conversational thing is a conversation it goes back and forth between 2 people. So when you're having this is my humble opinion again, but my observation, when you're having a soloist, usually the soloist is a main speaker, and then the rest of the band become more of active listeners. That's more like what's going on in terms of a true dialogue. So a person is talking like I'm doing, and then you are either agreeing or not by nodding your head or whatever, and then you might interrupt me and say a couple of things pertinent to what I'm saying, and then that's basically what happens in music, right? What's your take?
I agree with what you say. It's really, it's hard to, it's hard to really directly compare music to a language. There's a lot of similar process of learning the language, improvising, and then conversing together, but it's not the same. It's not, and there's all these different cultural differences and styles and languages. I don't know if there's one universal language that covers everything.
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, there's all these different musical cultures. I mean, there's a jazz improvisation, and if you learn that language, we can learn to communicate and converse and play together.
You need common ground.
That's a common ground. But let's say that's one language. That's a one specific language.
Yes, and when it comes to the dialogue thing, even things like as over mystify this over mystification of interplaying. That very few, if you really pay attention, very few people, I mean, only the masters can get to that point in which interplaying is really organic. Even that. So reacting to a conversation as a listener reacting organic is a talent. You need to train to really listen to someone speaking and know when to and to translate that in music is not easy. So sometimes you have people that believe that for them to prove you that they are listening, they have to repeat what you're playing. Right? That happens a lot, and then they become like parrots or like an echo machine. Everything you do, then they repeat. Oh, I'm with you. That's not interplaying either. So
I agree.
It's really interesting having like you're really putting your finger on all these concepts.
True.
But believe me, wow, the time really flies. When you're doing, and this is like, man,
when you have fun.
The good thing is that we are neighbors, so this doesn't have to end here. If you really, I had a lot of fun doing this. If you really have think that this is useful for your playing, or if you had a good time listening to this wonderful music as I had, you know what to do. These are hard times for all of us, so I put there on the screen the donations, the links for donations, and this will only make sure that I can really compensate for the wonderful time, Darek's wonderful time here with us, and all my guests in future events. So we would like to finish our streaming with a little humble and unscripted tribute to an icon we lost today. I'm talking about Gary Peacock, and I can't I can say enough about how that that guy really resonated in my own mix, because I've been a total fanatic of his performances, and I bet for you as a bass player,
very influential bassist, and I respected him very much.
Yeah. So this caught us a little off guard, but we're gonna, we usually end with the blues, so we're gonna just play an impromptu blues for all of you. And I thank you again for being with us. This has been Darek Oles, Darek Oles.
Thank you.
And my name is Otmaro. Thank you very much for being with us, and I will leave you with this blues for Gary. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Otmaro.